That's
3 halls from Dayton, yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the women's final. First of all, it's a great weekend in Cleveland. The energy in the queue. I wasn't there, but it just felt like it on TV. Mike, you were there. Were you there, Earl?
I was there. I was not there for the championship game.
Okay.
I see you on Instagram. I said, man, these producers, they're
getting hooked up.
These producers got some inside hookup.
Well,
I'm watching Earl on the Instagram joint. I'm like, where's Earl at?
Yeah.
He's signing autographs and he went to the game?
Yeah.
This is unacceptable,
The atmosphere was electric.
Crazy.
It was, so I'll let Earl chime in Friday because me and Earl were there together Friday. He didn't make it on Sunday. The first game, South Carolina, and we asked if you wanted a press pass. You said no. You didn't answer the text.
None of this.
I had one.
Hey, Mike,
you had one?
You asked this man 50 million times if he wanted a press pass.
Could have had one.
And he said, huh, what you mean? What you mean? A press pass? What you talking about? You know?
So Friday, the first game,
you did it to yourself. You could have been there.
Yeah, that's on you, G. I don't feel bad. But Earl, on Friday, the first game, South Carolina, NC State, I'd say about 70% full. Tickets got June for both games, so there was definitely a portion of the fan base that just wanted to see UConn, Iowa. It was a good atmosphere, but once the UConn-Iowa game started, the late game on Friday night, the way that went back and forth, coming down to the call at the very end, or, I mean, you tweeted it out. You thought it was louder than it is for some Cavs games during that last 5-minute sequence in the Final Four.
Listen, Friday night was amazing. Like, I get to the games with just walking to the arena, getting inside of the arena, seeing all the people with their kids outside doing all the different activities, like how clean downtown Cleveland looked, you know, like how smooth everything went getting in and out of the arena. You get to the arena, the atmosphere is absolutely bananas, right? You got Iowa fans pretty much taking over Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. You know, we get to our media seats. That was probably the highest up I've ever been.
You could not sit behind us. We were the last
row. Wasn't no sitting behind us.
Yeah, I saw that picture you took of the court.
We appreciate being in the building.
Yeah.
Even though we were literally the last row.
Great. Yeah. But, you know, you get there. One of the coolest things is me and Mike got a chance to meet a lot of people that was not from here, that was in the media. I know for me, like, I'm still new to this. So to meet all the different, like, minorities that's around this country, that's in the sports, I'm like, man, that's cool. Like, that's dope. You get to the games, the first game, South Carolina, North Carolina State. North Carolina State come out very aggressive. They come out hungry. And then me and Mike in real time watch Dawn Staley do what Dawn Staley does. She makes all the proper adjustments. They come out, third quarter, 29-6 run to close out the third. So we seen her dominance, her team's dominance put on full display. The nightcap, man, it was like a pay-per-view main event at WrestleMania or something like that.
That was a great game.
Like you get Iowa, you get UConn. I don't think Caitlin Clark had ever been defended the way that she was defended by UConn in her entire career. Yeah. Like, she was being face guarded every single time. At one particular point, she had more turnovers than she did points. You know, but you see her, me and Mike talked about this morning, for as great as a shooter she is, I think that she's an even better passer. Like, her court vision, her basketball IQ is absolutely through the roof. And we were treated to a show. Unfortunately, the refs played a part in it.
I think in the end,
I
think it was the right call. Also,
it was. It just blows.
It just hurt. You wanted to see a potentially game-winning shot.
So it was cool. Yeah. Being able to be in the press rooms, you know, to be up close and personal with Dawn Staley. I'm a huge fan of hers. To be up and close and person with Caitlin Clark. Mike didn't know this. I kind of wandered off on my own and went to the UConn locker room. Even though that they lost, got a chance to see Paige Beckers. And one of the coolest things is you seen Maya Moore. She was in this room. I could see her through the crack of the door. Yeah. She was talking to some of the players that was coming back next year about, you know, UConn basketball and just it's going to be okay. You get another opportunity to be here. But it was great, man.
You know, the one negative on what was an amazing weekend, and we do this too often in sports, but for some reason it's really bothered me. It was like people were tearing down Caitlin Clark after the championship game. You know, and like you don't have to tear her down to build up South Carolina.
Agreed.
Like, we can show love to Caitlin Clark and South Carolina at the same time. Clearly, South Carolina was a way better team, but most people like me who haven't watched a ton of women's college basketball or college basketball period, we didn't know how good South Carolina was. And it was like the people who knew how good South Carolina was like ready to shit on Caitlin Clark and shit on any fan who thought they would win. Like, why? So many people right now are embracing women's basketball for the first time ever, and it's great for the sport. And I loved that after the game,
Dawn Staley's comments.
Dawn Staley talked about how Caitlin Clark built up women's basketball. Why be a hater, guys?
Hey, listen, man.
Why be a hater? What is wrong with people?
You know that's how it is, man. You know, Cat's been waiting. See, here's the thing.
Yeah.
They build it up, right? So it's the good versus evil thing, right? So she beat Angel Reese.
Yeah.
Then people clown Angel Reese. And you be like, come on, bro.
And that's week 2.
And then so she won. And then now South Carolina they got their get back. Because you do know that if you root for LSU, you root for South Carolina. You do know that, right?
I hear you, and I know this. I get it. There's always a racial component to all of
But
this.
it don't make
I
no
don't think
sense.
this is as much race as some people want to make it. I think with this in particular,
Yeah.
there's a lot of great women's basketball players throughout the years that did not get the type of attention they felt they deserved. So
Right.
to see Caitlin now, and listen, she deserves all the
But
flowers
why?
she's gotten.
If you want to get mad at the way the coverage is, that's fine. But to put it on her is stupid.
I agree, and that
It's
part of it's
unfair.
unfair. That part is completely unfair, and I just think that's the bigger picture of how this whole situation unfolded.
Yeah.
People took their anger out at Caitlin Clark when
Right.
Caitlin Clark has done nothing but be, frankly, a shining example of how you should hold yourself.
Yes.
The coverage of it, I have issues for other reasons with the coverage. I think they did a disservice to some of the other great women's basketball players throughout the years. And now other players in the past are frankly a little jealous that it's Caitlin who's getting the attention. But you go back to the NBA. I mean, who's the old NBA player that said Steph Curry couldn't play in the 90s?
Oh, it's all kind of old
This
heads.
happens in every sport.
Right.
Yeah.
The older
Right.
guys, the gatekeepers, don't appreciate and don't want to recognize that the next generation
Yeah.
could be next up. So this is
Caitlin
not
Clark
women's
has been
basketball
great for the sport,
exclusively.
whether you like her or not. It's stupid to be a hater.
For me personally,
Yeah.
I can sum up her college career in one word. She was evolutionary. That's who she was. Like the way that she took women's basketball, and to me, not just on a collegiate part of it, but what she's going to do for the WNBA. She took it and she put it on a whole much larger scale. Now, she had some help doing it. I think a lot of the pushback comes from people are calling her the greatest player ever. And if you calling her the greatest player ever, in my mind, you being disrespectful. That's just my opinion. That's just
saying
my
it's
opinion.
disrespectful is not fair.
Just hear me out.
Yeah.
When you got Cheryl Miller, when you got Lisa Leslie, when you got Cynthia Cooper, when you got Diana Taurasi, when you got Rebecca Lobo, when you got all these people.
What, you saying you can't make a case for her?
No, what I'm saying is what I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
Dawn Staley said it right. She's one of the GOATs of our game. And so when people sometimes, like when they hear you talk direct and literal, they take you for what you say. When you say she's the greatest of all time, the pushback comes, wait a minute. No, she's not. I know some people that balled out like her.
Yeah.
But what Caitlin Clark did for the game of basketball, college women's basketball, like, it's evolutionary to me. Like, she's an amazing human, an amazing person. I love her competitive nature on the court. Like, she's not just a shooter. Like, she has an all-around game.
Right.
She didn't finish with no national championships. So that right there
wasn't good enough around her. Let's face it.
Right. You know what I mean? So, like, I get it. You got the Maya Moores. You got a lot of people out here who, didn't get the love and attention that they should have gotten during their time. And the joke is on them. Like, to me, I get it. It's a popular thing now. But, man, a lot of people late to the party.
But
to me, a lot of people late to the party.
Here's the thing. Anytime you have a sport where it's predominantly African-American dominated, like the best players are usually black people. When you find somebody that comes along, that comes from the opposite, grew up in Iowa, in the middle of nowhere, but she comes up and she's playing on a team, just basically an all-white team.
Yeah.
But she has the game and the trash talking and the bravado and unapologetic. That's what makes it so crazy. Because think about it like this. When golf was all white and Tiger Woods came along.
Right.
The fact that Tiger Woods was black was part of the story.
Of course.
Because
but she's not the first great black player, white player.
No, but she was the first white player that was playing with that energy. She had the energy. Like no one before her was doing this. No one before her was talking trash.
Or waving people.
Ain't nobody doing that. And she played at a way where it was like, and she was pulling up from half court on you.
Right.
So the game, yes, race plays a part, but the style of play plays a part. The temperature of what the climate was plays a part. And people being like a large group of people that are saying we're not represented in a way. Like when you say the best players are all black, people are going to gravitate towards her because they're like, wow, this person represents our life.
Sure.
So that's a big part of it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't, to me, it's not, listen, I don't know enough about, I didn't watch Cheryl Miller play. None of us watched Cheryl Miller play. She played too many years ago. Do I know that Cheryl Miller is better than Caitlin Clark? Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. I have no idea. I'm not qualified to answer that question. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's disrespectful. If you're a knowledgeable women's basketball person that knows the sport and knows the history of it, and you think Caitlin Clark's the best player of all time, then you're entitled. It's an opinion. There's no fact to who's the best player of all time.
Because she brought you to the table.
No.
What I'm saying though is,
but that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about people that know the sport.
Even if you don't know the sport, right? And you just started watching because of Caitlin Clark, and you ain't never watched no WNBA, you ain't never watched nothing, but you saw her play to some girl that's 11 or 12. She's the greatest of all time.
Facts.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Facts.
I don't think it's disrespectful. I think, and if you're going to say it's disrespectful, I think it's disrespectful to people say, well, she can't be the greatest because she didn't win a championship. Well, that to me is stupid. There's only a couple of years to win a championship.
South Carolina was a wagon, too.
I mean,
like a wagon.
They got ball.
Again, I don't know well enough, Mike. You watch more women's basketball than I do. I don't know how long you've been watching it.
I've been watching women's
Mike,
basketball for over 15 years.
It seemed to me that even though Caitlin Clark was the best player in that game yesterday, that the next 9 best players are on South Carolina. Or certainly 9 of the next 10.
Carmela Cardoza is a monster.
Yeah.
That girl is like...
He was killing their bigs.
She's going to be a top 3 pick. Like, she's elite.
Right.
Elite
but
big.
Caitlin Clark was still the best player.
Right.
But South Carolina is the best team.
You couldn't have got... Listen, it couldn't have been no better. You had the 2024 Naismith Player of the Year versus the 2024 Naismith Coach of the Year, right? Like, shout out to Caitlin Clark, man, nothing but love. But before this show ends, we have to give Dawn Staley her proper due. Like, I've never seen Dawn Staley get emotional. Like, and Dawn Staley is one of my favorite coaches to follow. I hope and pray that my daughters can play for her one day. But to see her get emotional and to talk about uncommon favor, you know, she talked about out of all the star players that has came and went since they organically built this program at South Carolina, and this be the team that go undefeated and win a national championship. This is her 3rd national championship, putting her in rare air. Now she's one of only 5 coaches ever in the history of the game to win 3 of them. And you look at all the players that's coming back next year, it's just, this is a powerhouse that's going to continue to do what they do.
Those 2 freshman girls
they did.
Were both awesome.
They did their thing. They definitely did their thing.
It was a fun game to watch because Iowa didn't quit. They kept making little runs in the second half. They cut it to 5 with like 4 minutes left. Too. But South Carolina was too much. Just Cardozo was just too much. I mean, she was unstoppable. And they couldn't. The O'Brien girl or whatever her name was too slow, and the other girl just was too small.
It was
the other big girl. She looked so tight. In the other games, she looked bigger, but against Cardozo, that girl looked tiny.
You couldn't do nothing about it. It was levels to it. I was explaining to my wife. She's like, why do you think South Carolina will win? I said, well, look, bro, those girls from Iowa, except for Caitlin Clark, they're gonna be school teachers one day. Them other girls, they gonna be teaching English at a local high school. And God bless them, they played their heart out.
Any of the girls on Iowa besides her gonna play in the WNBA ever?
I think Hannah can.
Stolke maybe. She's got 2 more years left.
I think Hannah Stolke can.
Yeah, but she got her ass kicked yesterday.
She did.
Yeah, it's a huge.
She's a power forward, not a center.
She's probably their second best player. That other girl is a good player.
Kate Martin. They had some players. Stolke's the only other one who was even a top 50 recruit. So Caitlin Clark was top 5 recruit. Stolke
but
was
South
top
Carolina,
50.
like all their players, the 9 that played, all seem like WNBA players. No,
and
maybe not all of them, but they're all
most of them.
One thing that I really liked about Dawn Staley is she said, like, I got real relationships with their parents. She called their parents.
That was an interesting.
She calls their agents. She calls their AAU coach.
She said outside of talent, the second thing that she pay attention to most is the level of respect that these student athletes have for their parents. Because if they respect their parents, they'll come here and they'll respect us. One last point to me it seems like Dawn Staley is out there playing chess while everybody else is playing
Well,
checkers.
you still got to put Gino #1.
Just hear me out. Just
Gino
watching.
got crazy
I mean,
stats.
Gino too, but just watching her say like, okay, I'm gonna watch what this team doing.
Yeah.
Let me see what you're doing. Give me your best shot, and then I'm gonna come out here. My team is gonna make the proper adjustments, and we're gonna run you out the house.
Are you moving her past Gino?
No, hell no. You can't do that.
She in the 2 slot.
What's her
now,
name?
right?
Raven Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, Raven Johnson, the girl that Caitlin Clark waved off last year, she called just a revenge tour. She did not have the best game offensively.
Yeah.
But what Dawn Staley did after Caitlin Clark dropped 18 points in the first quarter, she made Raven her primary defender. Caitlin went 5 of 20 for the rest of the game.
She didn't shoot well in the second
for the
half.
rest of the game.
Hey, I got